All right, this next question comes from DC, right? That's the person's initials, not the city, if you will. I'm Anita, the corporate navigation coach. I help women inside of my Confident Women Lead Accelerator program get promoted really in 12 months or less if you follow the program as designed. But even if you don't want to get promoted, even if you just want to be able to survive, deal with, thrive, if you will, in your professional setting, I help you do that too. I teach you what's really happening. I teach you how much of yourself you should even put into what's being done or said at work, or even how to increase your communication capacity so that you can deal with them in a way that feels good for you. So, for example, I am direct. You'll find out if you watch these videos, but I'm also diplomatic. It's how I balance out my directness, and those are the type of things that we teach inside of Confident Women Lead. But let's get into today's question. The question is, how do you reinvent yourself? And it sounds easy. This is what the person says in the note, but where do you begin? How do you do that? When I think about reinvention, y'all are gonna think I'm crazy probably, but when I think about someone who has reinvented themselves so many times, and it kind of goes unrecognized, I think, it's Snoop Dogg. Right. So if you're in your 40s or if you're old enough to know who Snoop Dogg is and watching this video, the number of times that man has reinvented himself, the number of times that he shows back up on the radar again, there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for his longevity in the entertainment industry in different channels with different people doing different things. And it's because he has the ability to reinvent himself. Now, when it comes to us as women, as Black women, how do we do that? The first thing I'm going to tell you is you got to start dreaming again and believing that your dream is possible. It's hard to know how to reinvent yourself because you've lost touch of, you've stopped dreaming, because if you stop dreaming, you stop having visions of what is possible for your life. Because somewhere along the way, somebody told you it wasn't possible for you and you believe them. And maybe you do right now have said dream, but it feels impossible. It feels unrealistic because, Black women can only have what's realistic. So how do you reinvent yourself? You reinvent yourself by making decisions. And then when those decisions come, being willing to do the work that's required of you, right? So I know you think you don't know how to reinvent yourself, but I promise you have. And let me give you some examples throughout your life where you've reinvented yourself. For those of you who are married, even if you lived with your spouse before you were married, something changes when you get married. And it requires both of you to reinvent yourselves in order to fall into that new dynamic in a healthy way. If you've gone from one company to another, you reinvented yourself. My government name, if you will, is Anita. But you'll note that in one of my reinventions, it ended up being Anita. And I'm toying about whether or not I'm going to reinvent and go back to my government name. Right? When you're thinking about reinvention, you're thinking about, I haven't done it career-wise. You're making it Black or white. And when you make it that Black and white, you tell yourself you don't have experience and you don't know how. And if you tell yourself you don't know how, you end up stuck. Your brain doesn't know what to do with that. So you have to ask your brain questions. Where have I reinvented myself in this life? When you went from not having kids to a mother, there was a reinvention. The Freaknik you, I'm using Freaknik because that was a big deal this year. The Freaknik you, so now I don't mean it for the person that wrote this video, but just for all of us. The Freaknik you is not the mama you, it's not the wife you. Reinvention. So we do know how to reinvent ourselves. Hell, the you that went into that professional environment before you knew what was contained in there is not the same you right now. It's just that those reinventions were kind of forced upon you. You had no choice but to acclimate. And now you want to do it for yourself. and you have a choice, and you're not used to having that choice, and you're not used to making those decisions for yourself. So you're like, I don't know what to do, but you do. Take stock of where you have practiced reinvention. Think about what it is that you want to do next. And if you truly don't know what you want to do next, I encourage you to look at the things that you love to do and find a thread. Purpose has always been in your life. There's a thread. We just think of things in silo, and we tend to, as Black people and Black women, throw things away as if you have to start over for reinvention. You don't have to start over for reinvention. Snoop Dogg, with the example I gave, he'll reinvent himself and be on TV with Martha Stewart. And then right after that, he'll go back to making a gospel album, which was a reinvention in of itself, but an album. He knows how to make music. There's some dynamic between him and Martha Stewart, and they have created multiple things based on their shared skill set. And somewhere in being on TV, making music, lies his purpose, the threads of who he's meant to be, who he's meant to impact in this world. And for you, it sounds like that may have something to do with children. And maybe it's that you don't want to work with children anymore. And so even if you don't want to work with children anymore, there's something there that you do love that's inherent to you. Maybe that's teaching. Maybe that's just the people aspect. For me, when I look back on my career, I've always liked compliance and risk management. There's a critical thinking component of it that I've always loved. So if I go way back to the early 2000s, one of my first jobs was a safety coordinator in logistics. One of my last jobs was in risk management. 2 different industries, still the same skill set. As I sit here talking to you and recording these videos, if I go back even before my professional career, if I go back to my church days, I am the type of person who always loved to be and always wanted to be the junior mistress of ceremony. What that looked like in corporate was me facilitating, me being a change manager, me being a project manager, me being a process improvement manager, because I like to facilitate. Being an MC is nothing more than a facilitation of an event. You see those threads of who you are, the things that light you up. This me has always been able to spot talent. This me has always been able to see you in a way that you can't see yourself. The way that I looked in corporate was I could interview people and instantly tell whether or not they would be good and really a part of what we were trying to create. Not even for my team. I was so good at it that I had to decline people putting me on their interview teams, because it's a gift that I have and it's part of my purpose. The work that I do now is just the culmination of all those experiences. But it has been a reinvention, let me tell you. It did require me to evolve into a new identity. And therein lies the work. Who do you want to be in your next evolution, in your next reinvention? How does she move? What does she accept? What doesn't she accept? These are the things that you want to consider, that you want to get a good journal. I love a good notebook. And writing out my thoughts is therapeutic, but not only that, it's a place for me to capture what really matters, for me to have aha moments, for me to get clarity about what it is I really want that I may be afraid to say out loud because I don't think it's possible, but I still need to get it out of my brain. And the more that I can get it out of my brain, the more I can manifest my reality, the more you can manifest your reality. So that's what I want you to do. When you're thinking about your reinvention, and I've said in another video, maybe the very first one, but this is something you mentioned in your note to me, was your age. Age is nothing but a number. It limits you no matter what side of it you're on if you let it. So for all of my ladies watching this who are 45, 50, 55 in your careers with the thought that it's too late for you, that you're too old, that you missed the boat, that you're not going to get where you want, that's just a story you're telling yourself, and it's limiting what you're able to create in this world. And I just want you to realize you had a similar story in your 20s or 30s. The story was just a little different. For those of you who are watching this in 20s and 30s, you're like, but they keep discrediting me because I don't have enough experience. If I could just get some more experience, which means you also get older, then I could do the next thing. Right? There's a story no matter what side of the number you sit on. So all we can do is decide what story we want to tell ourselves with where we sit right now and what we want to create in this world with where we sit right now. And honestly, you have the power to create whatever it is you want to create, regardless of your age. Because if you allow age to be a roadblock, you will allow race to be a roadblock, you will allow sex to be a roadblock, you will find reasons to be a roadblock to where you want to go. And while those things carry some things that may hinder or create obstacles, they don't have to be roadblocks in your mind. In your mind. You don't have to create the roadblocks for yourself. So let me know your thoughts on that. Do put things down in the comments. I'm happy to respond in the comments as well. I'll see you guys in the next group of questions in this series.